Hey there, folks in the Bronx. Nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to all different people and do nice profiles of people who are involved in really cool stuff. And we are going to start off and spend a little time with my longtime friend and broadcast colleague and favorite sports writer, sportscaster, official scorer of Major League Baseball, Howie Karpin. Nice to have you with us.
Yeah, I think I'm getting close to a record for being on the show, right?
I don't know. I'd have to. I don't know if I have enough fingers. But listen, we pretty much folks don't know, and we can just chat about it. When I had my morning show, which was a daily show, you were the daily sportscaster, and we reviewed what was going on in sports every single day, which was a lot of fun. But let's see now. Here's the formal stuff. He's a Sirius XM update anchor. Do you still write for New York Sports Day?
No, that's gone by the wayside.
Okay. But you're now starting to write for kindnesscorner.com.
Right,
which is a new thing. You're the author of 976-1313, How Sports Phone Launched Careers and Broke New Ground. And you were central to that. And congratulations on that book, which apparently a lot of people are very interested in. And here's the thing I just want to start with before we even talk about the Knicks and the Mets and the Yankees and everything else. You just scored your 1,500th game of being an official scorer for Major League Baseball. Congratulations. That's crazy.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's funny. It was at Citi Field. I did my 1,000th game at Citi Field. It seems like the milestones always pop up in Queens. And they mentioned it on TV when they disagreed with a call that I made in the beginning on a Francisco Lindor infield hit. So then they finally brought it up. You know, I don't seek attention, you know that, but it was nice that they mentioned it on TV.
Yeah, that certainly is. 1,500 games. So if you look at, 161 game seasons, it's like 10 full seasons. Although, now, how many years have you been an official scorer for Major League Baseball?
Oh, this is my 27th year.
Wow. Unbelievable. And, I'm trying to think back to some of the memories. There was a guy on the Mets who was a part-time player. I think he had originally played with the Royals, and you had some interaction with him because he was annoyed at you because I think you called an error, or you called an error on what he thought was a hit. Do you remember that?
Yeah, how could I forget it? 2000. It was Royals Mets, Brett Maine.
That's who I couldn't remember his name. I knew you would remember his name.
Yeah, well, that made the newspapers.
Are there any other big memories? Now you've done no hitters, right? You've scored no hitters.
I've scored 2 no hitters. I've been at 5.
Let's talk about the 2 no hitters that you scored.
Well, it was both the Astros combined no hitters against the Yankees, 19 years apart, which was unbelievable. You know, and it was the first no hitter at the new Yankee Stadium.
I remember
proud of.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, people think, oh, those aren't no hitters, but if you're in the stands and you're at the game, you believe you're at a no hitter. You know, if there's if there's a 0 in the hit column and the game is over,
yeah.
It doesn't matter if there's 10 pitchers or 1 pitcher. It goes in the books as a no hitter.
I was at the combined no hitter at Citi Field. You want to hear a funny anecdote? So I was at the Johan Santana no hitter, which of course was really a landmark moment in Mets history. And then Bartolo Colon was throwing a perfect game in Seattle. And just coincidentally, I was taking a vacation out there and I was at that game. And it occurred to me, if he finished the no-hitter, if he finished the perfect game, I would probably be one of the only fans that was at both games. Because who else would have been at the Santana and out there in Seattle when Colon did it?
I'll give you a couple of quickies. I was at the Glavine game when he took a perfect game into the 8th against Colorado, pitching for the Mets. We thought he was going to do it that day. And I was at the game last year when the Braves were combining on a no-hitter, and J.D. Martinez broke it up with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th with a home run. Max Fried started that game, pitched 7 no-hit innings, and we thought they were going to toss him. That was before the Mets got hot.
The one thing about that game in Seattle, you know who broke it up for the Mariners? Robinson Cano,
Oh,
who eventually, of course, and I remember seeing him come up. I guess it was the seventh inning because I think he did 6 innings. And I remember seeing him come up and saying to myself, "This is going to be a tough one to get out," because that was when he was really good. By the time he got to the Mets, of course, things had changed. And any other memories or games that you scored that you think are worthwhile, or any other moments that you said, "Look, I insisted on this particular play being a hit or an error or whatever."
well, if you remember, ESPN did a feature on me last year
I do remember
in
that.
July, and they had that game where A-Rod and Jeter combined on the pop-up. It became a big story because of their feud, and I had to change the original call to, from A-Rod to Jeter and charge him with the error because of the rule book. I also had a game a couple of years ago where the Yankees had a win to get into the playoffs, and Aaron Judge ended it in the bottom of the ninth with a walk-off. I called it an infield hit. A number of people thought it was a fielder's choice, shouldn't have been a hit. So that was kind of controversial. Although, the outcome was not affected. The Yankees won the game either way. It was just a matter of how it was going to go in the books. So that caused a little bit of a stir, even after the season was over. There's so many. I mean, I could take up the whole half hour here with the stories I have over the years, and eventually I'll write them in a memoir.
That I will certainly look for. I look forward to all your books. But has there ever been a no-hitter situation where it was a questionable call and you had to be the bad guy and said, "Well, no, I've got to give him a hit"?
No, not yet. Nothing like that.
Well, I'm rooting for that because that'll make you a national star, and that'll be okay. Listen, before we get into baseball, which of course both of us are big baseball fans, before we get into that, I just want to talk about the Knicks. Were you surprised last night that, especially that they came back again and won a game?
I was shocked, to be honest with you.
Shocked.
Yeah, I thought they were going to lose this game and then lose the series because they seem to be slipping away. They have these moments where they seem to be so lackadaisical at times. And then, they have a player there who's, just remarkable in Brunson. He just has an incredible will to win and not lose. I mean, it's amazing how he even gets a shot off at that size with these big guys. But, they follow the leader, and he is the leader. And he's turning into one of the great leaders in New York sports history, what he's doing here. It's remarkable. I didn't think they'd beat the Celtics. I really didn't. You watch them during the regular season. They have their flaws. They don't defend the three well. Sometimes they get beat on the glass, and they give up the second chance points. But they've seemed to have found their game. I mean, they are gritty. They have a lot of heart. Maybe their talent, it doesn't measure up to some of the other teams, but they seem to overcome. And, he's leading the way. And, he was due for a big game. That's one thing they had, the ace in the hole. He hadn't had a big complete game. He's been great in the fourth quarters, but last night he had a complete game, and he led them to what I think was an improbable win. And now maybe they can pull this thing off, especially now that Jason Tatum is injured.
Yeah, and I didn't get to check the papers or anything. Excuse me. This morning, is he badly injured? Is he now out, or we don't really know yet?
Well, I had a softball game last night, so I didn't see the game live, but it looked like it's an Achilles injury.
Wow.
So there's no official word yet.
Right. Well, I guess.
Yeah, shame. I mean, he's a great competitor. Thankfully, the Garden crowd reacted with class when he was taken off the court, and rightfully so. I mean, you may not like him because he's the opponent, but you have to respect him, and they did.
I want to share this with you about Brunson, and I realize that he makes these impossible shots, these turnaround 3-pointers where you think he can't even see the basket. I mean, he's just remarkable. But sometimes when they need a big play, and he may be guarded, I get the feeling that he does a little too much me. And I've seen him make, not only in the playoffs, but through the season, kind of bad decisions in big spots when he could look for other people. But I understand him, you know what I mean? I understand him being so confident that he can hit from anywhere. But sometimes I get frustrated about that. Am I wrong?
No, I'm with you. I mean, he does try to do too much at times. And, that's where he's got to find the balance. And when he does, they're a much better team. He's got people he can, feed to. I have a problem with their spacing on offense at times. They try and set that high pick above the foul circle.
Right.
They end up bringing the defender right to the ball handler, and you're not making the defense move around. You're giving them a chance to double,
Yes.
and trap them in the corners. So, when they don't do that, their offense seems to function better.
I totally agree with you, because a lot of times what they do is, they'll spread the floor, and I know they want to give him room to operate, but sometimes if you get guys cutting across, I mean, you and I grew up at the old style Knicks, which was a whole different approach to the game. But if they would move a little bit, I think it would free him up a little more. But a lot of times they do, and that is the tendency with a great player. You stand around and watch him do his thing.
Right. I agree.
All right, let's get into baseball. Let's start with the hometown Yankees, 24-17. What's your evaluation of where they're at?
Well, we should start with what happened last night in the ninth inning, a terrible injury to Oswaldo Cabrera. To me, it looks like a broken ankle. I mean, Yes wouldn't even show the replay. They said, it's too gruesome. So that's a big hole at third, which is already a problem. DJ LeMahieu is going to return tonight. He's going to be back in the lineup. I have to think that they're going to, they're talking about playing him at second. I'd have to think that eventually they would try him at third base. They're being carried by an incredible player in their history now, in Aaron Judge. I mean, he's batting .414. It's remarkable.
Crazy.
He's and people still pitch to him. They're getting over their head, contribution from Trent Grisham, who really has never shown this before in his career. And their lineup is actually pretty decent. I like Austin Wells a lot. He gives them a real power threat behind the plate, and he can drive in runs, and he's a decent catcher. Anthony Volpe's a little up and down for me. At times he makes mistakes on the base paths where he's a little too aggressive.
A young player.
Player. His third year, though, you expect him to be a little more progress at that point. Right now, Max Fried is carrying them on the mound. He's been awesome. 1.05 ERA, 6-0, whatever. And Carlos Rodon's pitching a lot better. They got Clark Schmidt back. So they've got like three reliable starters. Their bullpen's a little up and down right now. But they're also fortunate that they're in a weakened American League. The Central now is almost taken over as the best division in the league, which is
those
great.
teams all have winning records.
Right. I mean, Detroit plays great. Kansas City's red hot. So it's a weird year so far, but right now they're holding their own.
I got a couple of questions based on what you said. Every time I see Aaron Judge at the plate, it looks like he can't do anything but hit it out of the park. He's so big and strong, and if he gets a hold of one, I mean, he's just absolutely amazing. So that's my comment on that. We'll do the other players after we take a break. We're going to take a break, then we're going to do the finish off with the Yankees, and we'll talk about the Mets, and we'll summarize the whole thing. Our guest, the great Howie Karpin, he's a Bronx boy and played baseball at Lehman College, and I've known him for many, many years. We'll take a break.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. Boy, is it fun to talk baseball with Howie Karpin. Uh, Folks, he's a Sirius XM update anchor, official scorer for Major League Baseball, the author of a number of books, the most recent 976-1313, How Sports Phone Launched Careers and Broke New Ground. And he is going to be writing for KinersCorner.com. Howie, we were just talking about Aaron Judge, but you talked about the injury to Cabrera and LeMahieu. He used to be just a great hitter, a great professional player, but he's kind of diminished over the years. Do you think he's going to be able to do the thing at third base? To me, it's a natural. Just get him to third base right away and let him fill in.
Well, they're hoping so, and otherwise, I don't. They have a kid in the minors who's drawing rave reviews, George Lombard Jr., who's playing third. I think he's playing short and third. They moved him up to Double-A. I don't know if they would want to make that move. He's only 20 years old or whatever, but right now their number one prospect. And if they can get a semblance of the old LeMahieu to where he can get some clutch hits, they'll live with that because he could still field. I mean, he's not terrible in the field. He maybe lost a step or two range-wise, but if they can get something out of him, because they're not going to make a deal right now, certainly not for a third baseman. And everyone keeps talking about Nolan Arenado. Cardinals are red hot. They won 9 in a row. They're competing for the Central. I don't see the Cardinals making a move there. So the Yankees are going to have to solve this problem from within.
What's your anticipation of Stanton? They're talking about Giancarlo Stanton being healthy and ready. Do you think he's going to be able to come back and actually contribute? I mean, where do you see his role, or if there is one, on this team?
Well, they have kind of a nice problem because Ben Rice has developed as a hitter. He's totally different than what he was last year. He's gotten some real big hits. He's got a lot of power, a left-hand swing. He's been DHing. He plays a little first base. He can catch. So, it's a nice little log jam they have there now, especially now that Jason Dominguez is starting to develop and show what he can do. I've always felt he should get the at-bats. I mean, he's a young player. Everyone buried him in left field because he had a couple of bad outings there. But they thrust him into a bad spot last year. You put him in left field in Yankee Stadium when you haven't played a lot of left field. He's gotten much better in a couple of months, and now he's starting to show you what he can do with the stick. I think they have a real good prospect there who's developing before our eyes. And
it certainly helps a guy like that to be in a lineup, with Aaron Judge and watch how he goes about his stuff. I mean, this is what the veterans do for a lot of teams, and we're going to talk about that directly with the Mets in a moment. Last question on the Yankees: needs at the deadline. What do you? And we didn't talk about Devin Williams and whether we expect he's going to come back to form. But what's your anticipation at the deadline? What the Yankees are going to be interested in?
Well, I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up trading Devin Williams because he's a free agent at the end of the year. But they need another arm or two in the bullpen. Look, every team needs pitching at the deadline.
And in the bullpen in this day and age, the starters are going 6 innings. The 7 through 9 is an open book for every team in baseball.
Right, and I think another right-handed bat would probably be a preference if they could pick that off, especially in the infield. Jazz Chisholm right now is injured. He's a left-handed hitter, but when he comes back, he's their second baseman. So, they've gotten a nice little influx of youth, a little more speed in their lineup, a little more athletic than they've been. But, right now, they're a little up and down, and we'll see. I mean, the division isn't that great. They've had trouble with the National League teams the past 2 years, especially at home. I think they have to improve their home record, but I think they can win this division and at least make the playoffs.
The old rule, the old saying in baseball is, play 500 on the road and be great at home. The New York Mets are doing exactly that. They're almost not quite undefeated, but very hard to beat at home. I'm going to start with number 12 at shortstop. He is a wondrous player, a wondrous human being. It's weird, but he's electrified the stadium with the Temptations, My Girl, and now what's the other one that they're playing?
Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
No Mountain High Enough. But his skills are just mind blowing, really.
Well, I saw him play a lot in the American League. I knew when they got him, they got a gem. A lot of fans were down on him early. It wasn't working out right away, but I think you can make the argument, maybe not even an argument anymore. He's the best shortstop in the history of the franchise. He's a guy who he could end up winning an MVP down the road or something. Certainly if they end up winning a World Series, that'll solidify his legacy with this team. Plays every day. Should have been a Gold Glove winner last year. I don't know how he's not even in the final three. To me, that's ludicrous.
We're recording this, folks, on Tuesday. On the Monday night game, he did make an error on a ball that he normally never misses.
Yeah,
and he does. He's got 5 errors, which is kind of a lot. But some of the plays he's made have just been. You just that tag the other night, and of course he runs the bases well. Needless to say, he gets big hits. He's just been as good as you could possibly be.
What people underestimate, and this is what Derek Jeter did for the Yankees, and all those that doubt Jeter was a really good player. I can't believe that. Anyway, he makes guys around him better, which is very tough to do in baseball. He makes the infielders better. He gives a steadiness. He provides the rest of the team. They know he's going to be there. They know he's going to come through in the clutch. It's very similar to what Jeter gave the Yankees during his prime. Right. And this guy's a switch hitter. He's got more power than Jeter. Certainly hits more home runs. He's probably as good a hitter. Maybe he doesn't get 3,000 hits, but this is a terrific player, and the Met fans should appreciate what they have here.
I think right now they do. The other question, which again I'm looking to you for your expert analysis, is on Juan Soto. Met fans are concerned about him. I don't know that the way we've seen him is he going to hit 40 homers again. He's got a way of kind of the way he looks is like he's not really emotional. So you get the feeling that, everything is just whatever it is, it is. What's your analysis of what you've seen and what Met fans can expect as we go into the future?
I think he'll be much better as the season goes on. And you got to, again, his mere presence in a lineup, look what it's done for the guy behind him. Last year, the guy behind him won the MVP. Not that the guy behind him last year, doesn't really need a guy in front of him like that, but it was certainly a luxury to have. But Pete Alonso's benefiting from his presence. He sees a lot of pitches in an at-bat. I think he'll be fine. He's not a 300 type, 320 type hitter, but he's very dangerous because you can't really pitch him outside. He can go to the opposite field. Could put the ball in the seats in the opposite field. I don't think being out of Yankee Stadium is a factor. He was never really pull happy in the Bronx. He didn't really try to pull the ball with the Yankees last year. He doesn't try to pull the ball here. I think he's just getting a situation where he's hitting a lot of grounders right at people. He's had a little bad luck. He's hit some shots where guys have made great plays. Yes. I think he'll be fine. He could have a really big second half for them as they go down the stretch.
And he's always up with, of course, with Lindor on base, so it gets complicated. You mentioned Pete Alonso. I anticipated that he was going to perform very well. Once he figured out how not to go for the low outside pitch, I really felt that Alonso was going to really discipline himself and become a better hitter, which he certainly has done.
I think he put too much pressure on himself last year with the free agent walk year. And, he didn't really obviously he doesn't have Soto in front of him like he did now. Right now he's having a terrific season. He's got the opt-out in the contract. The Mets are going to have to ante up here. He keeps this up and goes, he's right now an MVP candidate. It's very early, of course. But, he's like you said, he's not fishing for that ball low and away. Pitchers are approaching him a little different now because he's a little more dangerous. He's getting a few more hits than he got in the past. And he's a good guy, and his fielding has gotten a little better. He's not Gold Glove material, but, his range is underrated. He makes a number of diving stops in the hole. He has problems with the throws. That's where it goes haywire.
But he apparently leads all of baseball in the scoops at first base, which he's actually very, very good at.
He always was. That's no different. He works at it. Last year,
Yeah.
there was a thing where he went to a concert on the night of a game and then got criticized by some media members. And then I was at the game the next day, and there he was, 10:30 in the morning, taking grounders at first base. So, he's a good guy. He's a leader. He loves playing for the Mets. Another guy, he's going to, likely set the franchise record for home runs this year. So their top three is as good as anybody in the sport, including the Dodgers.
Now, last year, with Severino and Carrasco and, of course, Manaea, who's injured, and we'll wait and see how that turns out, they seem to develop a starting pitching staff out of nowhere. In a way, they're doing the same thing with Canning, who's pitched very well. Holmes, are you surprised that Holmes is becoming a decent starter? I mean, he doesn't go very deep yet, but he's pitched pretty well.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't think he could make the transition. Wow. Yeah, I am.
Interesting.
Because I saw him with the Yankees last year, and he put himself in situations where he put a lot of traffic on the bases. He's not doing that this year. If you look at his career record, he puts more runners on than innings pitched. So his whip or whatever you want to call it is a little high. But right now this year, he's getting those ground balls to get out of situations. Plus, he's got a little better defensive infield behind him than he had with the Yankees. A different situation where he has a little more margin of error as a starter than he did as a closer.
We're almost out of time. I think Acuna is going to be a great Luis Angel Acuna is going to be a great player. He's got all the skills.
He's a weapon.
He is a weapon. All right, so here we go. Are you in prediction mode for the Mets and Yankees, or it's too early to tell?
I'll say they'll both make the playoffs at this point.
That
goes from there. But one more thing I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
To have Juan Soto gives the Mets a chance to beat the Dodgers, because the Dodgers right now, they're the team you got to knock off. They have the formidable lineup. Their pitching, to me, their bullpen's a little overrated. But I think with Soto in the Met lineup, it gives them, they're in a tough National League. The Braves are starting to play better. I think with Soto in their lineup gives them a chance to really maybe come out on top at the end.
All right, we got by the time this airs, this will be just before the Subway Series. It's going to be great because all the fans in New York City are energized by whoever they root for. And the first three are going to be at Yankee Stadium. And then they go to Citi Field July 4th weekend. That is going to be another hoedown, so to speak. Howie Karpin, I love you, man. And we'll just keep going. Anytime I get to talk baseball with you, whether it's privately or on TV, is a pleasure.
Same here. And congratulations on 1,500 shows.
1,500 shows, and of course the Bronx Walk of Fame, which is another whole.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. I'm going to be looking for it on YouTube.
All right, there you go. Hey, folks, that'll do it for the Bronx Buzz for this week. And listen, Howie and I, we played stickball and softball together in the schoolyard. So, that's how long we know each other. And that's what the Bronx is all about. Curtain don't fall, the creek don't rise. We'll see you next week.